Welcome to the Nerd Journey Podcast. Our goal is to help you, the technology professional, accelerate your career progression, increase your job satisfaction, and be more effective in your existing role.
We want to bring listeners like you the career advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers.
I'm John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, sharing co-host duties with Nick Cordy at NetworkNerd_.
We're two former IT operations guys who have moved on to pre-sales roles with technology vendors. We have our opinions, but we also like to highlight the journeys of others and see what we can learn from them.
We'd also like to ask for your feedback to make this a conversation, not a one-way broadcast. Email us at nerdjourneypodcast@gmail.com or DM us at nerdjourney on Twitter. So come join us on our nerd journey.
Let's take a trip. Episode 277. This week, we're going to share part 2 of a discussion with our guest, Ethan Banks, and some special bonus content just for you. As a reminder, Ethan is a network engineer, a podcaster and content creator, and one of the co-founders of the Packet Pushers Podcast Network. If you missed part 1 of our discussion with Ethan in episode 276, we talked about the impact of the pandemic on the Packet Pushers as a business. We talked about how everything in our lives needs lifecycle management, whether it's a job we have or a project that we're working on personally or professionally. Speaking of projects, in that discussion, Ethan also shared something special that was released in early 2024, and that's the Packet Pushers Job Board. This week in part 2 of our discussion, we'll continue with the Packet Pushers Job Board as our backdrop to begin. Ethan's going to share some industry trends he's seeing and what companies are looking for right now in top technical talent. How is that impacted or not impacted by the layoffs we're seeing in the industry? And we'll also check in on Ethan's changing role. What's it like now compared to what it was 5 years ago when we spoke to him? And what's his favorite thing about the way things are currently? And then, as I hinted at before, sometimes you interview someone and you think of a question after the fact, and you think to yourself, oh, I wish I had asked this question. You'll get to hear the answer to a bonus question I asked Ethan after we recorded this interview that he was kind enough to send me an answer on. I hope you enjoy part 2 of our discussion with Mr. Ethan Banks.
And the idea is to grow it into a resource that helps people with very specific needs find people with those very specific skills.
How has it been to start what's essentially a business that has like a network effect, right? Like the more people that are using it, the more value it has, as opposed to, more of a broadcast business, which is you create the content, you put it out there, and then people discover it over time with lots of what's, essentially evergreen content that people can leverage for the long tail. Two different kind of models, right?
So you're exactly right. The way the jobs board works best is when we have 10,000 listings in there from all over the world, and you can sort by region and and all of that, right? And it's a new thing. So the challenge is like starting a new podcast or starting any new endeavor. It takes time to grow it. And so what we've been doing is just letting people know that the service is out there, that it exists, and making people aware that this is a service that's being used. We're already seeing some people begin to line up. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, we can let people within our audience know that the jobs board exists. And we're doing that. We're advertising via our newsletter. We're letting people know via podcast ads and mentions at points that this thing exists. And we're seeing it slowly ramp. There's more people being registered. There's more jobs being listed. Is it as incredibly useful as a well-established job board that's been out there forever? I mean, obviously not. We don't have every job that's out there that could be being listed on our service yet. But over time, it's going to grow. We're already seeing evidence of that. It's not even been 6 months yet, and we're already seeing substantial growth and some interesting jobs being listed.
Are you seeing any gaps in terms of candidates going for the jobs on those job boards or within the networking space in general because of the layoffs? Like, is there a gap that people have when they go to look for that new role that they just don't think about filling?
Well, I mean, I'm not able to like look and see what all the skill sets are of the people that are applying and kind of understand that person X applied for position Y and there's a gap between their skills and what they applied for. But I can tell you this, looking at the kinds of jobs we're seeing listed on the job board, companies need seniors. Companies need people that have experience. Companies need people that have, a lot of skills. Those are tough positions to fill. If you have 10 or more years of experience and you have professional or expert level certification or experience at that level, if you've worked on lots of complex technologies and you're comfortable with a complex technology stack, companies are looking for you. You are hard to come by. You are rare and increasingly rare as the IT tech stack continues to grow in complexity. A lot of the people that have those skills are vacuumed up by the vendors. So networking vendors, if you are a practitioner that is very skilled at networking, Cisco wants to hire you, Juniper wants to hire you, et cetera. And so we're seeing a lot of that happen where people that were practitioners, they were working for WWT as a consultant and now they're gone because they're off the map, taken off the board, working for a vendor now, doing awesome things at the vendor, but they're not on the practitioner side. And so companies that actually need someone to build networks for them are having just fewer resources, and consultancies are struggling to keep as many engineers in the field as they might like. There's lots of work out there and it's hard to find the people to get that work done. The people who are the seniors tend to be overworked. So if you're someone with those skills, you're in demand. From what I'm hearing from just about everybody, you can, even with layoffs, if you've got the right skills, there's a place for you. That's the struggle that I think companies are having. Junior positions, I'm not seeing those advertised as much, and even mid-tiers. I'm seeing some of the mid-tier positions, but the senior ones especially, tech lead, senior network engineer, network architect, cybersecurity architect, those sorts of titles seem to be in demand.
I appreciate that context. That's very helpful.
I guess it makes sense. You have to be in the industry for a while and have grown through a couple different, cycles in order to be somebody who's senior and is working on something that is relevant today, right? Just because things change so quickly.
They change, and in networking, it's additive. It's not enough to know how to build VLANs and routing. Now it's, okay, that's just your foundational network. You need to have a stable underlay, and now we're going to stick an overlay on top of it. It's going to be EVPN VXLAN, and we're going to use that to deliver a complex security profile for your company that interacts with other IT components within your network. Or we're a shop that does all of those things I just said, and we deliver all those services via network automation. And so you need to know the network automation tooling stack too. You need to be able to function in a GitOps environment and write unit tests and deal with pipelines. Or we need you to know a particular set of tooling like Ansible, because that's the only way you ever touch a device is you're going to push an Ansible playbook once it's gone through our pipeline and gone through all the proper approvals. You never actually log into a device anymore. And so you've got these other sets of skills that you're expected to have that, again, they're additive. It's not enough to be someone who 20 years ago, you had a CLI and you kind of understood what you were building and you kind of had a plan and you built it out and you did the thing. Now it's just all this other complexity that's been added to what it takes to deliver IT infrastructure.
I feel like that has to be analogous to the life of the business owner as the business changes and grows. So tell us about the additive and changing nature of your role as a business owner and founder within Packet Pushers over, say, the last 5 years since we talked.
You want to start the podcast over? How long you got? Oh, boy.
As long as you want.
So the challenge of a small business that has a lot going on in the engine room, if you will, on the operational side of things, which is where I've spent most of my time, is it gets to be difficult to do the thing that you started out doing, the reason you went into business, which for me was to make content. I want to make content for people. I want to deliver podcasts. I want to write newsletters. I want to write articles. I want to do research. I want to talk to vendors and figure out what it is that they're selling and what their new technology is and what it does, and what it really does, not what they say it does, and so on. All of that takes a lot of time. And then if I'm fussing on the back end with, I got to give someone permissions in our Google Suite to do X, and we got this challenge with spam coming in from this, and we got to do X, whatever it is, or our email is not being delivered because we forgot to update our SPF record when we put that new server online, and on and on and on. All these little things go that can be some tech stuff that needs to be tweaked, or just general administrative things, or I have to meet with the tax accountant and all of that. There's only so many hours in the week, and there's only not just hours in the week. There's only so much your brain can multitask on. There's only so much you can think about effectively without exhausting yourself. And so, over time, it's just me and Greg, my business partner. We kind of burned ourselves into the ground, honestly, running the business. I tended to focus more on operation stuff. Greg is very good at sales. He was doing a lot of the sales work, and we were both, of course, content creators with multiple podcasts that we were delivering, building our YouTube channel, and all that kind of work too. End of the day, you had to hire people. We finally got to that point in 2023 where we brought on a CEO. Her role is to take on all the operational stuff, make sure everybody's getting paid, make sure that when we bring a new podcast on board that it's loaded into all the right directories and we've got the right graphics in place. And, all that stuff, that operational engine room, back office stuff that's got to get done. That's her job. It's not my job so much anymore to make sure that happens. We hired a VP of sales. She came on at the end of 2023. And her job is to make sure we're having the conversations we need to have with sponsors, that the sponsors understand what services we offer and what we can do, and whether they're a good fit for us, and how they work with us, and how we can help them, what it is they need, and get all that kind of stuff done. And that's making life better. Now, of course, my problem is learning to delegate it properly. Like, okay, you hired these folks. Let them do their job, Ethan. Something I've never been especially good at. I've been a manager many times in my career, and delegating has always been a big struggle of mine. But thankfully, my hand is being forced because I can't do the things I'm paying other people to do and do all the content stuff that I'm supposed to be doing, keeping up with all the research, et cetera. I'll die. I have an aneurysm or something. So,
and nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that, especially me. And so it's been a good learning process for me to actually, now that I'm being a manager again for the, fifth, sixth time in my career, actually figure out how to enable the people that we've hired to do their jobs effectively and not get in their way, so that I can focus on the things that I am uniquely suited to deliver. Not everybody has my background and way of thinking and looking at something so that I can deliver a podcast on a particular topic. I can do that. My CEO can't. My VP of sales can't. They can do these other things. So why get in their way? And that's a thing that I've been having to learn over the last few months. And I think I'm getting there, guys. I think I'm getting to a new equilibrium where I can know what they need and help them with what they need and not get in their way, and also get my stuff done that I need to be doing. And I'm happier, honestly, because I love being able to do the research and the content stuff that I do.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, deciding to stop doing something and put your effort in a different area. That's why it's hard to lay it down, because you've just been doing it for so long.
That is exactly it. When you've been doing it for so long, it's hard to I do taxes every year. Okay, we got a process. You got to gather these documents. You got to put this together. And you got to build this spreadsheet. And it's like, no, I have to show someone else what I've been doing and hope they come up with a better and more efficient process than I could have ever thought of. And I don't have to think about taxes other than to sign a thing if there's a thing I need to sign. And that's what happened this year. It was good. I didn't spend half of January and February worrying about taxes.
Or a lot of energy trying to not do it and also not be bothered by it.
They're so complicated. It's like, even with a tax accountant doing 95% of the work, even the 5% that's left is hard. It's like, oh.
Was the separation with Greg focusing more on sales and you on operations? Was it always that way from the beginning? I don't recall.
Yeah, it was kind of naturally happened that way. I mean, we both did sales. We both did operation stuff. It's just the natural split was, the way it worked out. Greg kind of liked that business. He had a sales background from earlier in his career. My experience with sales was never in a sales capacity. It was like as a pre-sales engineer where I would accompany the salesperson, wince when he promised things that we couldn't actually do, the kind of things that you do as a pre-sales engineer. You get in the car and go to lunch after the meeting and then go, all right, you said this, this, and this. Those aren't even things. And they're definitely not things we do because, again, they're not even things. So that was my sales experience. Greg actually had sales experience and understood, had training in it, knew how it worked. And he's just naturally more gregarious and, and outgoing in conversations. I tend to be more introverted, actually. Maybe I don't sound that way on a podcast, but I'm kind of a quiet guy, and I don't mind selling. I'm not ashamed to talk about what my company does and and how we help people, and how we help companies and what we're good for with engineers and all that. I no problem representing that and talking about it. I can talk about it all day. Am I good at it? Do I understand? I'm not a salesperson by the way my brain works. My brain is an engineer brain. I build things, I troubleshoot things, I think about how things fit together. That's how my mind goes. And so to me, a sales proposition is more like, so this is what we do. Do you want to buy it? It's kind of like it. And that's not actually how sales goes. That's not what sales is all about. Sales is more like it's building a relationship with another human so that there's trust and an understanding of what's going on. And eventually, money gets exchanged. That's part of it, but that's not the core of it. The core of sales is actually the human relationship. And I'm so engineering minded that I forget that, and I have to really work at that, even though I like people. It's just not, I don't have the natural sales knack, I don't think.
I'm just kind of wondering, with your new structure and as things have evolved, what is your favorite part of things now? Maybe, something that's not obvious, maybe something that you didn't expect.
My favorite thing now is seeing Packet Pushers grow beyond its original incarnation, which was just a single podcast. We've replicated that with several other podcasts that have a very similar mission. We've enabled several other people to have a voice that can explain what they know to their audience now. And it's not just Ethan or Greg or Drew, the regulars that work full-time for Packet Pushers talking. It's all these other people in the community that now have their shows on our platform that are talking. We're getting more information out in the same kind of a format, the same kind of a structure, that deep engineering oriented, let's get down to what's really going on here kind of discussions that has scaled beyond just me and just Greg and so on. That means, in theory, someday I don't have to have a podcast, but the original idea, the thing that we wanted to do, is still there. We can still have these conversations happening in the community, for the betterment of the industry. It's really interesting. A lot of the conversations are bringing vendors and practitioners together. I have learned talking to vendors that a lot of times they live in their own bubble and they kind of think they know what practitioners need, but they really don't know a lot of times. I've been in a lot of conversations where a vendor will be launching a new product and they'll have a presentation and they'll run it by us like, okay, we're trying this with a few different firms and with you guys. What do you think? Is this right? Are we hitting this right? Is this the right message? Are practitioners going to understand what we're doing here? Are we even doing the right thing? Is this the right direction? The podcast conversations that we have, since it does involve vendors and it does involve practitioners, mean it's an opportunity for the industry to figure each other out. What are you selling me? Or what should I sell you? Or what is it you need me to build? What's wrong with the thing I built the last time? How can I do that better? Or what should I create that you have no idea that that's the thing you needed? Can we figure that out? There's a lot of interesting conversations that happen like that. But to have that happen on a scale that's not just networking, now it's security and now it's cloud, and we're having these other conversations in other verticals. That, I think, it matters. When you listen to the shows, we've gotten feedback from the audience many times is because I listen to the show, I feel like the smartest person in the room. I'll come up with an idea or suggestion on a conference call or in a meeting. And they'll be like, how did you know that? Like, oh, well, the Packet Pushers guys were talking about it. I heard it over, these different shows, and it's like, yes, that's it. That's the point. You listen to the shows and you can keep up with everything that's going on without having to go to courses and endlessly troll the internet looking through feeds. Just listen to the show. We're going to keep you up on the latest on what's going on. And you'll understand the use cases and how it works and whether it fits into your company or not. And then you walk into that room and your boss asks you and you're like, yes or no, and here's how it fits. And yeah, that's the point. So there's wins there when that happens. I feel like I lost the thread of the question, but anyway.
No. I think we won by asking you that question because that was fantastic. And I know we're getting to the end here, Ethan, so we want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for joining us to revisit and share those lessons learned and what you're doing at Packet Pushers these days. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back. After 5 years, it's neat to still be doing this and be able to come back and have a 5-year follow-up conversation. That was super cool, guys.
I just want to say a special congratulations to Greg and Ethan on 14 years of Packet Pushers. That's tremendous, and they're doing wonderful things. I'm so thankful that we were able to speak to Ethan and get the insight that he shared on the show. Did you hear what he said about senior level personnel? If you have senior level expertise, you are needed in this industry, even during times of layoff. So if you haven't looked at the Packet Pushers job board, take a look to see what companies might be searching for. Maybe that's a great resource to think about whether your resume actually speaks to the deep levels of experience that you have and the type of role that you could take or seek to take as a next step in your career. Ethan mentioned that one of his favorite things has been seeing Packet Pushers grow beyond its original idea, giving other people a voice. To me, it sounded a lot like a manager's answer. What I heard was that their business, their idea, have scaled beyond just Ethan and Greg. The original idea is there, but they've widened their impact. They have multiple shows now, multiple people with voices helping them make a difference in the overall practitioner and vendor technical communities. And it's an opportunity for the industry to figure one another out, and a community that they began, which continues to grow. And I know they're proud of that. So on to the bonus question. Ethan spoke to the natural division between things that he would do, operational tasks, and things that Greg would do, perhaps more sales-oriented tasks. So what else was it that made Greg and Ethan work so well together? Aside from that, what could someone listening to this learn about what to seek in a potential business partner? Here's what Ethan had to say when I sent him this question. To have successful business relationships, each partner has to have well-aligned goals for the business as well as a similar business ethic. Greg and I are both for the practitioner first in our content. We want to give practitioners a voice, to share practitioner stories and perspectives, to tell vendor stories in a way a practitioner wants to hear them. Ethically, we're also well aligned. We've never traded on our audience identities, for example. We don't sell our mailing lists. We deliver on our commitments in a timely fashion. We pay our bills on time. Employees get paid before we get paid. Be financially cautious and conservative. We've never had any tension about business finances, as we both think about money the same way. With that being said, we're not identical people. Have we disagreed on things over the years? Of course. In a business, there's any number of small details that come up, whether it's the font you're going to use on the website to what kind of promo materials to make. In those cases where there's disagreement, there has to be enough flexibility on the part of one or both partners to let the little stuff go as long as the important things are aligned. Greg and I have always been good at that. Lots of give and take over the years. I suppose the final key component is trust. Do you trust your business partner to behave on behalf of the business the way you want? Do you trust your business partner to be ethical with clients, employees, and you? If there's a lack of trust, there's tension, and tension leads to a breakdown in the partner relationship. Greg and I built trust early in our relationship and even had thoughtful conversations about how we conduct ourselves in different settings. For example, we agreed at one point that at conferences where we were sitting where people knew us, we'd limit alcohol consumption. Too much alcohol is a bad thing for people like us who are often subject to NDAs or privy to embargoed information. Plus, we didn't want to create a reputation as party guys. We took the job of packet pushers seriously and trusted each other to represent the brand in public appropriately. If you're someone out there who's seeking a business partner, there's a lot we can learn from Ethan's response to that question. I hope you enjoyed this discussion with Ethan. If you're looking for the first conversations we had with Ethan, where we walked through his career before Packet Pushers, you can find those in episodes 42 and 43, and we'll put the links to those in the show notes. And we'll see you next time.
Farewell, listeners. Tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White at BJourneyman, for Nick Cordy at NetworkNerd_, signing off.
Adios. We look forward to monitoring your progress in the future.
What do I feel like Emperor Palpatine just said words to me?
Nice.